NASCAR hits the high banks of Talladega for the 10th Cup Series race of the season. I am joined, as always, by Win the Races, Ryan Stevens. Ryan, it's great to see you. Super speedways, especially in this next-gen era, can be very difficult to predict. We are going to do our best here. It's also extra difficult to predict this weekend because of the different stage lengths. NASCAR's introduced a much longer Stage 1, Stage 2, and Stage 3, roughly the length of a fuel run, trying to mitigate fuel saving. I'm sure we'll still see guys running half throttle in the draft for a portion of this race. I want to start with Team Penske, though. When we go to super speedways, Ryan, the metrics often favor the three Penske teammates. Austin Cindric is the reigning Spring Talladega winner. Ryan Blaney won the Daytona Summer Race last year. Joey Logano, the last year and a half at Daytona Talladega, has led more laps than anyone. So what's your outlook for the three Penske teammates this weekend?
I think one thing, and we'll start with these stats here, is that you'll hear some stats and then you'll hear about the finishes. They're going to be two very different things, especially when we talk about teams like Penske. I pulled the large super speedway since 2024. Penske's number 1, 2, and 6 in average running position in those races. However, in the 27 total races, they have a combined 6 top 10s in that time. They do have a couple wins, so we know the potential's there, and I told you about them running up front here. They have the highest win percentage of all teams in our simulations. And then you mentioned Cindric won at Talladega recently, Blaney at Daytona, Logano at Atlanta. They just need to finish the race. Logano's a good one to mention here because if you pull all these drafting stats, he's like number 1 in average running position if you look at all of them, or if you look at Talladega only. But then you look at Talladega and you're like, oh, he's running up front, must be doing well. Well, he doesn't have a finish better than 16th in the Gen 7 races here. And he's led laps in 6 straight. So he's up front. I think, maybe this is the week his luck turns around. But as you'll hear a lot throughout this preview, the stats don't always tell the whole story. You're going to have to survive and be there at the end.
Yeah, there's so much shuffling in the draft, fuel saving, fuel mileage, fuel strategy, and then it all comes down to the big wreck at the end, most likely. I want to talk about RFK Racing for a moment. I was a little disappointed by their performance at Daytona in the 500. I think as a team, they led only 4 laps. But at the very end, Chris Buescher was still alive and Brad Keselowski was still alive, and Brad had a head of steam around that outside. If Riely doesn't throw that late block, maybe, just maybe, Brad would have brought it home in the 500. Roush Racing has not won a race at Talladega since Ricky Stenhouse Jr. nearly a decade ago. So I'll just ask, how does RFK compare to Penske, the other Fords? How does RFK compare to the competition at super speedways nowadays?
I feel like Brad Keselowski's knocking on the door, like you had just mentioned, ready to get a win here. If you look at the guys who've been running up front at the end of these races, so we'll look at guys who have top 5s in at least a third of this 9-race sample set on the large drafting track since 2024. Byron has 4 top 5 finishes. 2 of them were wins. Reddick, 3 top 5 finishes. 2 of them are wins. Stenhouse, 3 top 5 finishes, has a win. Keselowski, 3 top 5 finishes, no wins. So he's there at the end, maybe one move away, like you said, from getting a win here at Talladega or on these large drafters. But then we have Chris Buescher, same sample set. Only Logano, Cindric, and Bubba have run a higher percent of their laps inside the top 10 than Buescher in that time frame. And only Byron, Keselowski, and Wallace have finished more often inside the top 10. So, Buescher's there as well. And then we mentioned Ryan Preece. And since he's gone to RFK, 6th best in the percentage of his laps, ran inside the top 10. So he's always running up there as well. Again, you just have to survive here. But these guys are there at the end of these races. And if I had to, pick one that could sneak through, I'm guessing I'm going to go with Brad this week.
I think I would go with Brad too. Yeah, Ryan Preece was in the picture, top 5. I think he was running 2nd on the last lap in the spring race here a year ago. So don't count Preece, don't count out Buescher. I want to throw something throw a curveball at you, Ryan. Baseball season's in full swing. My team's not doing so well. I don't know how your team's doing thus far, but spring is here. So let me throw a curveball at you. Ross Chastain won at Talladega back in 2022, won this race. Kyle Busch, that was his first year at Trackhouse. Kyle Busch won this race in 2023, his first year with RCR. Now, RCR, Trackhouse, Busch, Chastain, 2 drivers, 2 stars that are struggling to begin this season. So I'll just throw this at you. Chastain or Busch, who is more likely to get the win this weekend if you had to pick one?
Wow. I mean, that's a tough one. I'm going to go with Kyle Busch here. In the same sample set, I mentioned a large drafting track since 2024. Only Logano, Cindric, Wallace, and Buescher have a better average running position than Kyle Busch. But again, like we said with Penske, if we're talking about finishes, well, neither of these guys are getting them recently. In that sample set, Chastain, zero top tens in those 9 races. Kyle Busch has one. So give me Kyle Busch here. At least he's finished top 10 once in that sample set, and he's way more fun on the radio.
Yeah, no doubt. No, that radio right now, that can't miss TV week in, week out. And Kyle Busch won the pole at Daytona, so we know they can bring some single car straight line speed. Let's talk Toyota now. I want to switch over to Toyota. They went from like almost never winning super speedways in the next gen era to now they've won 3 in a row, I guess, if you include Atlanta. Reddick back-to-back Atlanta Daytona, go back to last fall. Chase Briscoe won here at Talladega. So, Denny Hamlin's a recent Talladega winner, I think 2020, 2021. Bubba Wallace won here in the fall of 2021. So Toyota has seemed to have Talladega's number pretty well the past half decade or so. So who's your favorite Toyota this weekend if you had to like power rank just those cars?
I'll mention 3 of them. My favorite one to start is Bubba Wallace. Like Keselowski, I feel like he's due for a win here. I mentioned, only 2 Penske cars are ahead of him in average running position at the large drafting tracks in that recent sample set. And Bubba leads the way with 6 top tens in those 9 races. He leads everyone with 9 out of 14 if you include Atlanta in that time frame. Our simulations also love Bubba as the top Toyota, but I do have to mention, his teammate here too, Tyler Reddick. If you look at all drafting tracks since 2024, Tyler Reddick's #1 in average finish. And that's obviously bumped up by his wins this year, but we are in this year where he wins everywhere. And he had a win in great flashes at drafting tracks before his 2 wins this year. And then another guy I wanted to mention was Chase Briscoe. And you mentioned Briscoe's win here, but it's worth noting that he's also finished second at Atlanta this year, fourth at Daytona last year. So the upside there is there. He's ran over 30% of his laps inside the top 10 on drafting tracks since 2024, and in 9 of those 14 races. And in 6 of those 9, it was with JGR. So that's where all his great finishes are coming from. And I think Briscoe's another one to keep your eye on as well.
I want to single out one more guy here. You've mentioned his name a few times in relation to these stats, but William Byron, this time last year, we were wondering if William Byron could lose on a super speedway. He was back-to-back Daytona winner, all that good stuff. He's got a couple Atlanta wins as well, 4 drafting track wins in the next-gen era. But it's now been 6 drafting track races since his last drafting track top 10. That was Talladega last spring. So, Byron's been a little quiet the last couple weeks. Would love a good race, a good finish. So are you buying any William Byron stock this weekend? What's your take?
A little bit. I think he'll be all right. I mean, you mentioned his good Talladega finish, and in his spring Talladega races recently, he's finished 4th, 7th. He was great at Atlanta, one of the best cars, but that didn't work out, this season. And it's hard to ignore just the full sample set of everything. Try to look at like the wider scope, I guess, because of how volatile these races can be. And in that sample set I'm looking at, Daytona and Talladega since 2024, he has more top 5 finishes than anyone in the field. So I think if you look at the grand scheme of things, Byron should be okay here. I know it's been kind of a rough stretch for him recently, but and this is a tough spot to say, yeah, maybe it's a good spot for him to get back, but he has been good here. So we'll see what happens.
At least Talladega, there's a little more room to operate. There's, the wrecks can be bigger, but there's also the gaps to miss the wreck sometimes can be bigger as well. We get that 4th lane going from time to time. We'll wrap up with this, Ryan. This is kind of, usually I ask you at this point, who's your dark horse, who's your underdog, but at Daytona and Talladega, half the field could be a legitimate underdog, a legitimate dark horse candidate to win. So I'll kind of ask that. You can interpret this how you will. I'm looking for who's a dark horse driver who could win this weekend and be the best story? Carson Hocevar could get his first win. He'd be driving the dark Dente car. That'd be cool. Alex Bowman is back. You never know. That'd be pretty cool. Maybe that's too much to ask so soon after coming back. I guess if I have one realistic wild card, I'm going to shock some folks. I'm going to say Riley Herbst. He has 3 top 10s here in his Cup Series career. At least one of those came with Rick Ware Racing back in the day. So he knows how to find the front. He gave his teammate the winning push to win Daytona. I was at Talladega 2019. I remember it. I was standing in the tri-oval as he and Johnny Sauter made contact. That Sauter forced him below the double yellow line, or else Riely Herbst would have won his first Truck Series race that day. So I don't know. I like Riely Herbst. I'm going to keep an extra eye on him. Had a good run this past weekend at Kansas. Who's your fun, sneaky, interesting wild card pick if you had to pick one, Ryan?
Yeah, I like Herbst. Had you not mentioned him here, I might have gone that route. I love Hocevar. Hocevar's improved, the last four races at Talladega. He's like got finishes in the teens, then better in the teens, then top 10, then almost a top five. So he's getting better and better every time. And what I noticed with Hocevar too is that his average running position is getting better and better every time as well too. So it's not like he's just kind of lucking into it at the end. I'll go with Zane Smith here. We'll mention another
Oh, I
guy.
like it.
You know, the only driver with a better average finish than him on drafting tracks this year is Tyler Reddick, who's won both races. So, I mean, Zane's finished top 10, Daytona, Atlanta. He was actually the top Ford at Atlanta. And in last year's spring Talladega race, he ran almost half his laps inside the top 10. In the fall, he came back and finished in the top 10. So the last three times we've seen Zane on a drafting track, he's finished ninth, sixth, and seventh. So, yeah, I guess give me Zane for like a dark horse, top 10, top five type deal. And then who knows? Like you said, if he finds himself in the right spot and the right things happen, maybe he gets a win. Who knows? We'll see what happens. It should be fun.
I like it. I think it was 13 years ago now. Front Row Motorsports went 1-2 at Talladega in the spring race. So, hey, keep a close eye on Zane, Todd, Noah. Noah's often up near the front in these styles of tracks, these races as well. I like that pick. That's a good one. Ryan, thanks as always for doing this. Fans, as usual, you can find more of Ryan's great work, more models, tools, analytics at wintherace.info. A lot of fun games you can play. You can play the draft each week alongside Ryan, Tino, and Phil. I know we're uploading this on a Thursday. Y'all just did your Talladega episode, but it was a lot of fun being on with you guys. And I guess you said somehow I came out with the narrowest of wins in my debut. Yeah. I think I was bailed out by Bell fading on the final couple laps at Kansas. If that doesn't happen, I probably don't walk out of there with the win. But that was super fun, man. Can you tell folks more about the show?
Yeah, you are 1-0 against the draft crew. So we'll look forward to, maybe we'll have you on in the playoffs or something like that. We can run it back. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, we'll draft one driver from 8 different teams plus a bonus driver. So all three of us are going to pick, 9 drivers tonight. We'll talk about a lot of stats. And again, take that for what you will, but we'll have a lot of fun talking some Talladega tonight. So yeah, check it out. The draft, 8:30 p.m. Eastern.
Yep, 8:30 p.m. every Wednesday night, unless I make y'all change your schedule on every now and then. But that was super fun. Appreciate you being on, Ryan, and we'll talk again here after Talladega.
Thank you very much. Enjoy Dega, everyone.